Is Jaclyn Glenn too good for relationships? Or to be more precise, is she too good to be dating bad boys, or at least guys who have certain relationship, commitment, or emotional issues? It'll be no news to Jaclyn and social Repose fans that Jaclyn and Richie have recently split up, or at least are working through some kind of relationship issue. My understanding is that Jaclyn uncovered some incriminating texts on Richie's phone, which, if I've understood and been following things correctly, led her to realise that Richie had been cheating on her. Naturally, she's now shocked and devastated by this discovery. First, I want to make it clear that I don't think cheating is ever excusable. If you're no longer feeling a relationship, you've fallen off the commitment wagon, you man, woman, or non-binary up, you communicate that to your partner, and if you've already done the deed, you fess up straight away and you apologise. This vlog, however, isn't about that. It's about why individuals like Jaclyn, it seems quite often, end up in relationships in which they're not treated particularly well. Could it be that Jaclyn and others like her are incredibly attractive to individuals who have polar opposite characters or characteristics? I don't want to get into the discussion of whether committed relationships and monogamy are a good or a bad thing, but if we take Jaclyn to be a representation of the good girl persona, and Richie to be an embodiment of the bad boy, can we learn something about the dynamics of polar opposite relationships? Is there something about the good girl, or indeed the good guy's persona, that is incredibly attractive to the bad boy and or bad girl character, and further still, maybe these good personas are irresistible to those with psychopathic or sociopathic tendencies? I don't think it's much of a secret that, in particular, bad boys, those guys who are a little bit edgy, dangerous, rough around the edges, often receive quite a lot of sexual interest and attention. I would, however, argue that bad boys and bad girls usually attract an equally troubled partner, whether that's another person with fidelity issues, or someone who's weak-willed, needy, and or vulnerable in some way. Now, it could be argued that Jaclyn's past relationships have made her vulnerable and more emotionally sensitive than she might otherwise have been, and that might be part of the reason why she has these kinds of relationship issues. But I think it's what dating gurus might call her high status that makes Jaclyn, and others like her, most vulnerable to the pursuits of bad boys, bad girls, and or psychopaths. And by that, I don't just mean that Jaclyn's an incredibly attractive woman, but that she's intelligent, self-assured, she's a go-getter. To put it another way, she's the complete package. Who wouldn't be delighted to be in a relationship with Jaclyn Glenn? Now think of it from a psychopath's or a bad boy's perspective. Dating someone troubled, or someone who could be considered low status, i.e. someone who's naive, uneducated, easily led, weak-willed, isn't really going to be that much of a conquest. It's really not that much of an achievement whatsoever. These are people that a troubled or psychopathic persona might use for a one-night bang, or they might enjoy playing or toying with their emotions when bored, but they're not really people that they'll likely invest much time in pursuing or developing relationships with. In a nutshell, they're easy prey, good for nothing but a little bit of fun. Now, this isn't Jaclyn Glenn. From a psychopath's perspective, I imagine it'd be quite the challenge to date someone like Jaclyn. I guess you'd also get some major kudos points for getting Jaclyn to fall in love with you. And then, if you're a psychopath or have a cruel streak, you'd probably get a real kick, some serious enjoyment out of then destroying her emotionally when she's fully invested in you and your relationship. Now, I'm not suggesting Richie is a psychopath or a sociopath, or that he has or had any ill intent toward Jaclyn whatsoever. I've seen some videos on YouTube suggesting that he might be, but 1. I don't know him or Jaclyn. 2. I'm not a psychologist, nor do I have the training to make any such diagnosis. And 3. It's almost impossible to evaluate anyone or anything fully via a few snippets of information found on the web. Yes, Richie, in his response to the incident, to my mind comes across as being rather cold, clinical and detached, but that could be just his coping strategy, or maybe it's an indication of him having some narcissistic tendencies. Who knows? I'm not going to diagnose, analyse or judge anyone. In all the videos I've seen of Jaclyn and Richie prior to this incident, they've always looked very much in love. It also doesn't seem to me that Richie had any intention of Jaclyn finding out the truth in the way she did. From my encounters with those I believe to be true psychopaths, I've noticed that they usually want to be the ones in control, i.e. they would have wanted to set up the discovery in such a way that it would have given them the most leverage and power and caused their victim the most suffering and pain. Maybe Richie did set this whole thing up and he's just really good at playing the game. But I don't think so. Even on a really basic material level, I think he cares too much about his art and his tour to do anything that would jeopardize the success of his music and artistic career. I wonder though, if from Richie's perspective, he was kind of blown over, maybe even awestruck that someone like Jaclyn Glenn could be interested in someone like him. In his response video to I'm an Idiot, he first refers to Jaclyn as being perfect when they met, and then he addresses the issue of what he's done by saying the following.
Clearly, I have a lot of deep-seated issues. Just look at the stuff that I do. I have a lot of problems. I have a lot of things that I haven't addressed. And she kind of took me on with the thought that she could fix me, and that, you know, there's a lot of good parts that she saw in me. And you know, I commend her for that, but at the same time, you know, everyone did warn her, and I don't know, it just sucks that I proved them all right. I did.
Could it be that on one hand Richie thought that he could live up to Jaclyn's vision of him? He could be all the good things she saw in him, and to essentially become the man she believed him to be. After all, Jaclyn, although she may have some emotional vulnerabilities, isn't, as I've noted earlier, some young, naive, uneducated, uncritical, unthinking person. In no way, shape or form am I trying to explain away cheating, but I think whenever someone, whether you refer to them as a being out of your league or high status, or just an incredibly viable person, comes along and says, I believe in you, I see something good and beautiful in you, there's a part of you, in this case Richie, that thinks, well, if this high status individual thinks I'm a good person, I'm redeemable, savable, maybe, just maybe, with them in my life, I can be all of those things. This isn't some naive, unintelligent person who has too little life experience, is too stupid, uneducated to know what they're getting into or taking on. This is someone capable of critical thought, who despite knowing my past and being warned by people of the negative things I'm capable of, still sees something in me that's worth pursuing, worthy of love. With someone like them, maybe I can be the better version of myself. Now, I have no way of knowing whether this is or isn't how Richie perceived his relationship with Jaclyn, but I think it's interesting to note that guys do seem to think of Jaclyn as a high-status individual. I believe Jaclyn points out at one stage that even though one of her past boyfriends had, I believe, a questionable, potentially predatorial approach or way of treating women in relationships, he was really respectful of her, i.e. he was patient when it came to taking their relationship to the next level. I also can't recall her saying anything negative about Richie. He didn't, as far as I'm aware, force her into anything and or treat her with disrespect in the relationship itself. Could this be, at least in Richie's case, because I really don't know much about Jaclyn's past relationships, that he really did love Jaclyn and wanted to be the man that she perceived him to be, but in the end, he simply just couldn't live up to the goodness she saw in him? Could it be that Richie convinced himself that Jaclyn could change him? Now you could say, well, if he respected Jaclyn and really cared for her, why didn't he just end the relationship when he realized that she wouldn't be able to save him, or he wasn't going to be able to be faithful to her? Once again, I think giving up on a high-status relationship is really difficult. Here you are, you have this person, Jaclyn Glenn, who you're not only really compatible with, but they're one of the few people in the world who are able to see you and acknowledge the best parts of you. They get you in ways that other people can't. That's incredibly attractive. Also, as a high-status individual, this person you're dating, i.e. Jaclyn, is also incredibly presentable to your friends, family, and wider community. They're the partner your parents really want you to be with. And if you, like Jaclyn and Social Repose, are also a YouTube couple, you're also an embodiment of the relationship goals to an even wider audience. That's a difficult thing to give up. I don't think this applies to all guys, but amongst the ones I know, there's quite a few who are able to separate love and sex. Essentially, could it be that Richie thought he might be able to have his cake and eat it too? On the one hand, he could have this really intelligent, beautiful, high-status, loyal and committed girlfriend, Jaclyn, and then on the other hand, have this other girl, who regardless of how intelligent and beautiful she might or might not be willing and eager to have sex with him, regardless of the fact that, one imagines, she probably knew he was already in a relationship. Could it be that this girl's willingness to service him in the way that she did made her appear to be more compatible, relatable to him in a way that Jaclyn could never be? Think about it. If you're in a relationship with this amazing person, i.e. Jaclyn, but have a darker, less fidelity-oriented and lustful desires, which, for whatever reason, you don't feel comfortable owning or revealing in that relationship, maybe that wonderful person, by their very nature, i.e. their wholesomeness, makes you feel lesser than. Lesser than for having feelings and urges that you feel that they won't be able to relate to, respect, or which would hurt or disappoint them in some way. Yet on the other hand, here you have someone, i.e. the girl Richie purportedly cheated with, who has similar morals and urges to yourself. Someone who is willing not only to satisfy your physical or sexual needs, but also, by their very nature, makes you feel comfortable with the darker, more primal, animalistic sides of your personality. You both share those drives and urges you've been hiding or suppressing in your high-status relationship. Once again, this isn't to excuse cheating or try to lessen or devalue Jaclyn's pain. But I think it's important for all people, especially those who might potentially be the ones viewed as being too good or high status for a particular relationship, to be conscious of that fact. The fact that your high status could lead you to bewitch your partner, cause them to believe that they can be the person you see in them, that somehow you, by who you are, will be able to draw out all those good parts of them and drive out all their demons and troubles. That indeed, you might be able to mend them or save them if they feel they're broken in some way. This isn't to say that people like Jaclyn shouldn't be in relationships with people like Richie, nor to suggest that those kinds of relationships can't work. But when you have a situation where one person believes they can change, save, or draw out the better parts of another person, and that person in turn believes that that individual can make them a better person, you might create a situation where although both parties are striving for the same thing and may believe in the same goals, neither of them, in fact, is strong enough to achieve those objectives. I think Jaclyn and Richie made a beautiful couple, and I think it's sad where the relationship currently is. Hopefully they'll find a way through it, and even if they're not able to emerge from this as friends, they'll reach an amicable place. I wish them both all the best, and hope they're able to reach a place of understanding, acceptance, and peace. Thank you for listening.